Hey guys, so it's Gomo here with my take on how I got into Warhammer. Um, Probably seen enough of these videos popping around now for the topic of the week that Vince is running. It's my first take on this. I've only really done battle reports, the odd sort of hobby talk that I don't think I've done one this year actually. Thinking about it, probably not. But I thought this one's personal enough, and you know, we're all experts at ourselves, so I guess who better to speak about how I got into it than myself? So might be of interest to some people. So just going through, so I've got some pictures that are just stuff that I dug out that is in my brain when I first think of how I got into this hobby. And this is actually the first white dwarf that I got. So I bought it off a school friend. I think it's the 92, so it's the end of third edition. And I had a mate who was into Dungeons and Dragons and all that sort of stuff, and whatever he sort of brought to school, we sort of all looked over, and I ended up buying it off him because I'm one of those ones that when I get into something, I get a bit addicted. So I wanted to collect everything that was around, and this was it. So you can see Space Marines on the cover, but it wasn't. In the end, it wasn't Space Marines that got it for me. I've always liked fantasy, Dungeons and Dragons, Dragonlance being one of my biggest, probably best novels that I sort of think back and like. Not so much Lord of the Rings, but anyway. It was this one. So just some of the shots I remember from inside the magazine. So the map. I spent a lot of time and a lot of English lessons in class writing stories from the Empire, and I think I even got in trouble a few times from teachers. Pretty much asking me to write about something else for a change. So it's probably getting in trouble off my kids and my wife now for a similar thing. But yeah, it was the stories in here. I think this book had a little bit about the dwarfs in it, and so my best mate ended up picking dwarves, and I ended up picking orcs, and that's sort of how we started playing. It's just a funny thing too. I remember back with this magazine, it was the only thing I had. There's no internet. There's nothing like this, and I was totally didn't even realize there's 3 gaming systems in here. So some of the stories that we used to make up and stuff had 40k people with fantasy. Just not realizing that even that there are different scales really. That the fact on the left there's epic, and then you got fantasy up on the top right. But looking back, it's just funny. You never make those mistakes these days. And of course the good old, I don't know if this is the birth of Gotrek Gurnison, but it was pretty close when he first took off. So this has always been close to stories, buying every novel and reading about him. So it's definitely got me really interested in Warhammer fantasy. And then of course, so I had bought a few more White Dwarfs and stuff like that, but eventually saved up enough to actually get Warhammer. I had no idea there was a new version out or was about to come out. So I don't know. I think this is 93, 90. Other people know 92, 93. The 4th came out. So I think 4th was either just out or maybe it did come out, and I bought this as on the cheap. Obviously, it didn't look like that when I bought it. It was new, but it's the oldest book I got, and it had a lot of gaming sessions and ended up looking like it is. Got thrown in a bin at school by a teacher once because we're reading it in class, and the spine hasn't held up so well. Just some of the pictures back then, I just think even now I look back and just think, that they look dynamic, except for, some of the monopose plastics started to come in. But, everything's handmade, and I think that was one of the old Hammer movements, still got that things, you couldn't just go out and buy an awesome looking piece of scenery. You had to make it yourself. And it's just refreshing to see some of these in the pictures of this out. It's just not all commercial, but hey, it's a business now, they've got to make money, and realistically I'd buy the figures these days over these old ones any day of the week. Cannot stand the metal figures now that after working with plastics. like it is, so much better. So then those orcs there, I've got about 36 of those monopose 2nd, 3rd edition orcs. So they're never going to see a games table anymore, I don't think. But yeah, they were some of the first figures I painted. Yeah, really from these boxes. So the regiment, I can't remember, is it red? Oh, there it is there. Fantasy Regiments box set, yeah, where it came with 10 Skaven, 10 Elves, 10 Orcs, 10 Dwarves, or whatever. And yeah, me and my mates just bought, I think, 2 of them each or something. So we ended up with a crap load of figures, at least for back then anyway. Nowhere that you need, not enough these days for 8th, but maybe that's going to change. And just some of the other things I just picked out in this, just games took all day, especially when you're a kid, you didn't know what you're doing. And just the complex movement and things you could do just took so long. But I don't know, it was sort of fun. It was definitely that cross sort of blending between role play and war games that you don't really get now. But having said that, I do enjoy keeping the pace of the game up these days. So with busy work life and family life, I don't think you could be playing 3rd edition too much anymore. Oh, and elementals, I mean, these are fun. There's a good way to pad up your army points when you didn't have enough figures. So 1,000 point, get a level 10 elemental in there or whatever it was. And noticing that they actually put base sizes on the rules, which is, I think they did keep that up for a while, but definitely these days, you have these arguments and who knows what's going to happen in ninths. So. But yeah, look at all that, 10s across the board. And of course, at some point, I managed to get what became my first love for Warhammer was Orcs and Goblins, and had every other army book since then, and pretty much kept it up to date. I mean, my history I'll go into a little bit, but even the editions I didn't play, I still bought the army book and stuff just to sort of keep my feet wet a little bit. I think these guys were about the 3rd book out. I didn't have the others at this time. I didn't have enough money to, you bought what you needed. You couldn't buy everything. Even though laughing about that now, and these books were like $20 Australian or whatever it was. And you used to get battle reports in them, which is funny. So you'd read it about 1 million times. But it's just, you just never see this in army books anymore. I'm still fielding a few of those lead fanatics and stuff like that. And got a bunch of those troll slayers. So yeah, definitely this is the era that I was in. The 4th edition was the main, 4th and 5th by far were the biggest editions that I played in. It was all Garage Hammer. I never played tournaments. I was too young, really. So we have probably played it totally wrong. Thinking back now, I mean, look at the size of the army. It's almost laughable. And yeah, orcs are a numerous army, so that's quite funny to see. These days. That wouldn't even add up to 1,000 points probably. The old Doom Divers there are still in my army, just stripped and rebased. Because I actually do add the new ones now, but I just haven't got around to actually putting them together one day. And the fact I actually had these articles, Rick Priestley here talking about the tactics. It's funny, when I reread this just for this, you could almost plonk it in an 8th edition army book and be close. You probably have to say that, hey, you're a bit more of a shooting army than a combat army, but the flavour, or at least the character they're trying to portray in the rules, it's close to what they've had all the way back here in 4th. And just briefly, I mean, from that, because of the background in role playing as well, I had to grab Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay and a bunch of other supplements that they brought out. So basically, we'd have week-long Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay sessions with mates. So back in early high school, and then I think by late high school it ended up being 5th edition, and we just played pretty much Warhammer then. And then this is all my new stuff now, but then I went to uni and I got out of it pretty much. So spent my time actually learning what to do, which is computer programming, which is what I do for a job, or might run my business. That's what I do. And the story of wife and kids. So the Warhammer took a back seat. I didn't play. I got out. I sort of dribbled off and stopped playing in 6th. I did like the early days of 6. I like some of the new rules they put in. But it just didn't keep up. Yeah, some of my mates had moved away, stuff like that, and just didn't keep it up. And then got into computers, and I just spent a lot, which is probably a good thing now. I, got all the learning out of the way. And then I came back to 8th. I did get 8th, so I bought 7th edition army books and stuff, but I didn't really play. Actually, I didn't play at all. I didn't play one 7th edition game. And then bought 8th when it first came out, and didn't play up until 20 months ago. So pretty much now the dying, or the last day, the golden age of 8th edition. So, but yeah, just dipping my toes in it when I first played it. The community was so strong, and it was just growing around here in Australia, and it just sucked me straight in. And I started on the Empire because that was something I had bought some of the figures back in 6, and so I thought I might as well pull them out and get them painted. And my orcs were way too old, so that's what I did. And in 20 months, I'm onto my 3rd army, so it's been pretty monumental effort, I'd say, and they've come up pretty good. I mean, that's most of my empires in that picture. Well, actually, this picture's probably a year old now, but it's the quality of the plastics, the paints. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's old school to people who've been playing 7th and 8th, but for someone who came back and hadn't played it for so long, it was funny. I remember picking up a steam tank box when I first got it, and just assuming it was going to be metal, because I didn't even realise that was gone now, and that fine cast had come and mostly gone as well. So it's just looking back, I was very naive when I got into it. I'm still learning how to play, and I'm probably screwing it all up at the times, but it's, as you guys know, it's a great game, and you just keep learning at it. So me and my orcs, I mean, there's more. I'm adding to these guys all the time because I'm trying to diversify from the net list. But when you're doing an army a year, you sort of don't have much time to just plunk down the net list initially, which is going to be good. It's going to be interesting with Knights because I'm looking forward to that. I mean, hopefully they don't screw it up. Hopefully it's, at least for the bigger games, it's going to be close to 8th with the rumours that they're saying. So I'm crossing my fingers on that one, because I do want to experience like that edition change when everything gets a bit reset. The net list there's no net list anymore because of the change, and just to see how people react and how I react, and how I'm able to develop my own sort of technique rather than, I mean, right now you pick up a book like Orcs, it's 4 years old or whatever it is, and it's hard to be original with it. There's been some changes with end times. I think the 50% and labelled people to do some other things like triple wyvern lists and stuff like that. But it's everything's been looked at 10 million different ways, so it's quite hard. And for someone like me who doesn't get a heap of time to analyse lists and do a lot of stuff like that, it's going to be interesting when everyone gets put in the same level playing field, so to speak. So looking forward to that. I don't know what else to say. I mean, that's sort of where it came from. It's been a great community. That's what's keeping me in it, especially even the YouTubers. I mean, it's a great community around my local area in Australia here, but also, you just need to get online to Google Plus and you're in. So, there's lots of stuff like that that's been really good, and I think you wouldn't get that now, except obviously with the internet enables it. So, that's helping keeping this alive, even if Games Workshop are trying their darnest to kill it by the look of it, by the sound of it. And that's pretty much it. So, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll get out my other battle reports as soon as I'm able to. Cheers, guys.